Let's go.
Wait, hold on. There's lots of buttons to push.
Do it.
Everybody wants something right now.
Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored.
Oh my God, it's right. Why?
Listen,
Now you starting it that way.
I have been saying this since last weekend. I'm ready for next weekend. Like, I'm already ready for next weekend to be here.
Yeah. No, April got me. April put me back in a bad mental health state.
Oh.
So
There's just so much going on. So anyway, welcome to Miguel and Holly Uncensored.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to
If this is your first time listening, hope you're having fun. Welcome to the chaos.
Yeah.
So sorry we missed Monday. Monday was crazy. This whole week.
Kelvin was out.
It was a lot going on. So we're here though. And there is a topic that Holly wanted to bring to the podcast.
Yeah.
What is it?
Okay. Oh, we're just jumping in.
Yep.
Okay.
I ain't got time.
Well, okay.
15-minute podcast.
Damn it! And now, of course, I can't find it, but I will just.
No, I know. I remember.
Okay, you know. No, I know what the topic is.
Oh, okay.
I was just looking to see if I could find some real world tweets or threads about it.
Yes.
But I can't. But I know that I can remember some of them.
Mhm.
So the topic is the hypothetical question for a woman. Ladies, would you rather be alone in the woods with a bear or a man?
Oof.
We are not qualifying what type of man, who it is. We know that you don't know the man. Or we know that you don't know anything about the man.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe that could mean maybe you do know the man, but also we don't know. It could be a complete stranger. It's just a man, strange man. Okay. Just man.
Now, okay, so would you rather be alone in the woods with a bear or a strange man?
Mhm.
Yeah. The question is just man. So
Okay.
I don't even know
Just
if we need
man.
to qualify it with
Got it.
strange.
I just
Just-
want to put it up on the screen for people that are coming in since we're starting it so early. All right,
Right.
so would you rather be alone in the woods with a bear or a man? Now, why has this gone so viral? Because you said that you've been seeing this pop up on your social media for the
weeks
past
now.
few weeks. Yeah.
Right. I wasn't going to say anything about it because I just thought it was like a fun little online thing. And then it kept going. It's now been like 2 weeks. And I'm like, maybe we should talk about this. It's going viral because already we have 3 ladies in the comments saying bear.
Bear.
Heather said bear. Doe said bear. Teresa said a bear. My wife might want to kill the man.
Ooh.
Zinda said bear.
Right.
Yikes.
And obviously we can leave room for more people to comment. But I have a feeling, given the odds of what the internet has been saying, women overwhelmingly have chosen the bear.
And when you said this and you were like, hey, I want to put this in, sorry, in the back of your dome piece to think about of something we could possibly talk about. And you told me the would you rather. And I immediately was like, oh, I'm sure women probably said the bear.
Mhm.
And you were like, yep.
Yep.
So why, or actually, hold on, let me see if I can guess. And then you see if you could confirm if what I think is true.
Okay.
Is that at least with a bear, you can at least try to hide or whatever, where with like men, or if it's just you two alone, you can't trust them. And that they could be doing some nefarious things outside of a bear who might, either just sniff you and walk away or not even ignore you.
Yeah.
Whereas if a man sees you, more times than likely, he's going to make you feel unsafe. And you're not going to be like, oh, yay, there's someone I found to protect me. You're like, let me run away from you because you may do something nefarious with me.
Mhm.
Pretty much.
Ugh, that makes me so sad.
Pretty much. And interestingly, Amber Stone did choose a man because she's I'm not reading that, Amber. But she says she's thick and probably weighs more than a man, but I don't have it in me to outrun a bear. Okay, appreciate it. But here's the reason why most women, and I'm obviously speaking broadly, and I feel like a lot of men, so obviously men are very angry about this, which I kind of feel like is proving the point. Like these men that are really outspoken about this are actively proving the point about why women would choose a bear. But anyway, so women would choose a bear for several reasons. First of all, like a bear really doesn't want anything to do with you. Bears aren't human killing machines. right? So they're not trying. They're like, if anything, like if it feels like threatened by you, sure, maybe it'll kill you. But a man, you don't know anything. Like yes, it's not all men, but it always seems to be a man. So like a man could do anything to you. And the point of this is that women are saying there are fates worse than death because we
Right.
know,
Yeah.
okay? And if we're talking about the absolute most dangerous situation, the men have online been like, "Do you realize what a bear could do to you?" And women are like, "Yes."
Yes, that is the point.
Yes. And they're like, "Well, good luck with a bear." And so men are fucking pissed. Again, not all men, and I feel like I need to say that, but like my man, if you're like, "That's not me, I would never hurt a woman." Have you ever told a woman in your life to be careful of other men? You fucking know it's the men.
Right,
like you
right.
know, and but
Mhm.
and it might not be you. Great. We're ecstatic that you are a safe man. But we don't know you're a safe man. And so we as women are going to take precautions because you might be a bad man.
And would
That's just how it
rather
is. That's
face
just how it
death.
is. Yes. And so the dudes are like, "Oh, well, what the bear's going to kill you?" Okay, well, I know what the bear's going to do to me. It's going to be very unpleasant, but then it's going to be quick and I'm going to die. But like men, there's all sorts of fucking things that could happen. They could stalk you down. They could want to just make you their sex prisoner for the rest of their lives. One man I saw on Twitter was like, "You women have it all wrong. You have the power. Just use your feminine wiles, and then the man will do whatever you want him to do. Men are willing to go to war for women."
So it comes back to sex.
Right. Mhm,
I'm like,
mhm,
you just
mhm.
said
mhm.
the quiet part out loud. Like you proved the point yet again. This man thinking he's explaining to women why they should choose men, and it's like, "Oh, you said use your feminine wiles." So basically, you have to have sex with this man so that you have to have sex with him so that he won't harm you. As long as you have sex with him, then you're safe.
Right.
Right.
Then he'll do what you want. By the way,
Mhm.
nobody asked you to go to war for us. Nobody asked.
It's
You wanted to
interesting.
go to war.
Before we got into life, said yes, a bear, because a bear won't sexually assault me and get away with it.
Mhm.
Doe said, I saw a TikTok about this topic, and basically the gist of it is that all the worst the bear can do is kill you, but men can do way more to harm you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so and believe me, like, and so I don't know how many men listen to this podcast that would be feeling a type of way about this, but I can imagine it is very triggering for a man to hear this. And by the way, I've seen this so many times on my TikTok. It's getting a little bit ridiculous because it's like the same information. And some of it is coming from dudes, really burly, masculine looking men who are trying to break it down for other men that don't get it. And they've done a fantastic job. But I feel like for the men that this bothers, it's almost so triggering that they're not gonna watch that anyway. But let me tell you, I can put myself in your shoes because I saw a parallel to this that really hurt me for a second, and it made me wanna be like, "Well, now hold on a minute." But I was like, shut your mouth and listen, Holly. Shh." The parallel to this is, if you are a Black woman, would you rather be in an office with a man of any race or a white woman? And the Black woman would probably most likely choose a man because white women are dangerous to Black women. So obviously, when I heard that, I was like, hold on, wait, it's not my time to talk.
Mhm.
It's my time to listen. So like men, if you're triggered by this, I get it, right? Especially if like you're not the one doing the raping and the killing. I get it.
Right.
But like, I like to think that I am an ally to all, including my fellow women, but like fellow women of color, right? Because I'm a
Mhm.
white woman.
Mhm.
And I like to try to do my best to be not only against like not only racist, not racist myself, but anti-racist. And it's tough work. Like you gotta sit and you gotta learn about it, right? So I was like, it's my turn to listen. So I'm gonna listen. And then even like this is where I get into where I get a little bit it's hard because for me, because I'm like, I'd like to learn, but I also understand that it's not my job to ask someone to help me. Like, I have to do it on my own, and I feel like there's only so much you can learn on your own without getting real life experience in the form of story sharing from other people. But I have read that you're not supposed to ask to be educated. So that's a whole other topic
Yeah.
for a different day. But the topic at hand, the bear in the woods, and this is again, I don't want it to only be like, men don't be this fucking stupid. But like honestly, this was a great exercise for men to be like, why would she pick the bear? And instead of getting angry and then trying to treat women like they're dumb for choosing the bear or trying to explain why they should be choosing the man instead of the bear or yelling, which by the way proves a point because now I've disagreed with you one time and now you're going to scream at me. That just proves my point why I don't want to be alone in the woods with you because you're going to scream at me if we disagree.
Right.
Anyway, you could have taken this opportunity to sit down and be like, this is uncomfortable.
Right.
Let me learn. Let me learn.
Something I
Not a lot of people have.
Something I always do when I go into an elevator and there's like one woman by herself, and I don't think I'm the most threatening looking, to be quite honest, but I still do. I do keep in mind that like there's probably a woman out there that doesn't want to be in an elevator alone with a man and probably has some sort of fear. So I always try to do a little limp wrist. I always try to do a little fruity hello, just to be like, hey girl,
how you doing?
we're good, don't worry. I always try to. I don't know where I learned that from, but I felt like that's my duty if I'm ever put in a situation where somebody else may or may not be uncomfortable.
I feel like as a black man, I've always have tried to make everybody feel comfortable, no matter if it's a white woman, a black woman, a white man, a black man, or usually a black man. I'm like, we're both like, we know what's up. We know what's up. But like what you learn early on as a black man, and you've heard of us talk about the talk that you have to have where like when I go into a grocery store or to Target, I never put my hands in my pockets, or when I lived here in Uptown in a parking garage, no matter who it was, especially if it was a white person, man or woman, I would always like smile and try to look affable because I don't want you to get scared, because I have run into that situation before when I lived in an apartment complex in St. Pete. And I was drunk one night coming back from the hot tub when I just moved in there, but I wasn't blackout. I was just like tipsy. And there was a woman who was like, "Who are you? Do you live here?" And I was like, "Yes." And she was like, "Where?" And I was like, "I just moved here like 2 weeks ago and I'm trying to figure it out because it's like a maze to get back to the place." But like me just being questioned if I live there. So I'm used to always putting a smile on my face or looking affable or, putting on a limp wrist, whatever the case may be, to make the other person feel comfortable. And so I understand it from that equation. But then also, how like way back in the day, Holly, when you and I used to work with Kramer, and y'all used to always make fun of me because y'all be like, and not like in a mean way, but just in jest. But you'd be like, "You never want to hang out with us. You always want to go hang out with, your gay friends. You never want to hang out with the straight people." And we joke about it. But like as a gay person, there are things that even to this day, like I will not bring to the air, even to the podcast, because like in the gay world, that's acceptable and we talk about it and it's fine and it's normal.
Right.
But in the straight world, we will be judged for it. And so that's why a lot of times so much of this job is talking to straight people and talking about straight relationships. And it's gotten better through the years and we're way more inclusive than what we used to be as we've learned more. But I'm like, all of my life is trying to think about how best to talk to women and straight women in this job. And because that's every radio station has a target demographic that they go for.
So this is usually ours.
Right. Is, women. And so on the weekends, I want to be as fucking gay as possible.
Yay!
I said, I want to, save it, print it out, play it all a pride, girl. I want to just wrap myself in a fucking rainbow and be gay. And so that's why I completely understand. Like if I had to choose, like a workplace full of gays, or, obviously this isn't talking about like feeling in danger. I don't ever feel in danger. But then sometimes I do. Like, that's why Abe knows, like, if we're in public, like, he doesn't try to grab my hand, because when we first started, dating, and we would be in downtown St. Pete, like, there's almost nowhere safer in Florida to be gay than in downtown St. Pete, where we moved from. And I would still be like,
Mhm.
we're an interracial gay couple. And this is as, things were heightening with that sort of rhetoric because of the presidential election. And I was like, I just don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's why I can empathize and understand why, women would say, I would so much rather be in the woods with a bear, because sometimes you just don't know. People are so unpredictable.
Yes.
And it gets
It's the
scary.
unpredictable. And bears are not plotting anything, okay? Bears are not trying to get in your pants, or like
Right.
pretend to be your friend for 4 months and then make a move, and then when you reject them, get pissed. Like, you know what I mean? So
Right.
anyway, that has just been popping off. And so the reason I bring it up is because it's not going away. And I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen with this. I do feel like we're in some sort of shift. Like, I can't stop feeling like we're having some kind of massive shift. And this is why it kind of goes back to TikTok being banned or not, is because I usually see these types of things pop up first on TikTok, and then they trickle over to the other platforms.
Mhm.
And when I say these types of things, I'm talking about like just things that make it seem like maybe we don't know as much about what's going on outside of our country than we think we do. Like, we have some blinders on, and TikTok is one of those apps that can break it down, because you've got all these different opinions, and the algorithm is different than Meta-owned social media.
Right.
And so I keep seeing it, and I just feel like I'm not this person. Miguel is this person about the clouds gathering.
Mm.
But to me, if I had to say I feel like some clouds are gathering, I would. Like, about just the way we interact with each other. It just, I don't know what it is, because Miguel's had that cloud gathering feeling many times in the past, and could maybe be a little more precise about what it means. But I just feel like there's just little changes in the air.
No, I definitely feel that. I definitely feel that we've been on this path for a while. And I think that what we're seeing is, I'm trying to think about how to get my thoughts together here, because we're just having a free form conversation, obviously. But like, I've been listening to this podcast over the past a couple of days called Landslide. It's by NPR, and it's basically going through presidential elections since Nixon to try to understand, when did our distrust of media start to happen, and when did we start to get so divided. And I've known this as a person who like loves history and like loves watching documentaries and listening to podcasts on it, but this one has been particularly interesting because they're also trying to like explain, how do we get to be so divided? Because like, that's obviously always been in place, but it
Yeah,
felt
the
like,
two-party system.
but even the two-party system, which this is something that was new to me in this podcast, that like, I knew that back in the day, that like, we know that like Republicans, the GOP, that was the party of Abraham Lincoln. They're the party that, set the Emancipation Proclamation.
Mhm.
But what I did know also is that Democrats had the Southern Democrats, where
Yes.
they were the ones that still wanted segregation, Jim Crow,
Did
things
they
like
sing
that.
about that in Sweet Home Alabama?
Ooh, I don't know that.
Or something. No, Song of the South.
Mhm.
Song of the South. That's the song they mentioned that in. Anyway, yes, go ahead.
And so the Southern Dixiecrats and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
so I knew that the parties were kind of splintered that way.
Mhm.
But in this podcast, they even talk more about how they literally they were the big tents. Both parties were. And so then between McGovern, Nixon, and then especially Ronald Reagan is when it really, really took hold. And it was like you versus them. And it was when the Christian nationalists really started to take hold of the party. because Ronald Reagan, who married Nancy Reagan, who was in that, he started to glom onto her because he already had like some conspiracy ideas, and then he met her and she was already sort of in that world, and then he really was like, okay, I get it, like, and then that's where things really started to splinter. And then
in Reagan times.
yes,
I thought too, really quick, correct me if I'm wrong, but like after Nixon and that whole Watergate thing, and he was a Republican, right? Nixon. And so the Republicans were kind of like, oh shit, who do we go after now? Because nobody wants to be associated with Nixon and the Republican Party because look what just happened. And so they started trying to go after different groups. And is that how they got connected with
it was sort of
the
so it was a couple of things working at once. So Reagan understood that the evangelical Christians were a small group in Congress, but they were a big group in America, and like no one was really talking to them. And so it was sort of like a marriage of two things where Republicans were trying to repair their image after Nixon, and then you had the governor in California, Reagan, who was already starting to talk to these people. And so it was like, oh, we have this bright shining star who is a good communicator, who's already talking about this message. Let's bring him to the forefront to represent our party. And then that's sort of how the two sort of got married together.
Thank you. Proceed.
Absolutely. And so anyway, I say all that to say, because I'm not done with it though, is that we've been on this trajectory for a while, for decades now. About almost 2 generations, and I think we are about to find out, we're going to get to the apex of this and find out of being this divided.
Got it.
That's how we got to the Civil War.
And do you think it's in this lifetime where it's going to break, or do you think just more years down the line it's just going to get worse?
I really think it depends on what happens in the fall.
I don't know if this is related, but it just popped in my head. So if it's not, just tell me to fuck off.
Fuck off!
I feel like you say that and then I do it and then you'll be very sad.
I'll be like, damn it. Okay, you're right. Never mind. I'm too sensitive for that.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've been paying attention, but on college campuses all across the United States, there have been these protests for the Israel-Hamas war situation happening. And I mean, like, there's always fucking protests going on at college campuses because, let's be honest, like, that's college kid age is when you first start to, like, notice the world around you. And you're like, I have an opinion. I believe this with my whole heart. And so, obviously, college campuses.
They're not tired because they're not tired.
They are not tired. They don't have no responsibilities.
No responsibilities.
They are so
righteous.
And please do it. I wish. Do it for me. I'm so tired.
I never was too tired. And also, I'm real jaded. And I'm like, good for you. And couldn't never be me. But anyway, but so college kids are doing all these protestings, right?
Good for
well, this wouldn't really, honestly, I don't notice it a lot, except that there has been a lot of backlash to the protesting. Now, I don't claim to know why necessarily. Like, are they getting outrageous? Are they getting violent? Are they causing too much disruption? Is it the subject matter? I don't know what it is, but like all of these protests seem to be getting some pretty high level of backlash. In fact, I just saw on Instagram that here at USF, they were using tear gas to dispel the at USF.
I think I did hear about this. Yeah.
And so their protests had started to go sideways, and like they were threatening to expel the students if they weren't following the proper protesting procedure. But then some of the protesting procedure was getting very vague. And it's like, well, you know, how do you assure that you're protesting in the right way? I don't know. So, I mean, I don't know if that also has anything to do with this splintering that you're talking about.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think that what's happening is you are having so many people that are young that are like, when you think about, if you are 21 right now or, 19, how old were you, 7 years ago?
Me?
No, like if you're 21 now.
Oh.
So you were,
Hold on. Can you just make it an even number and do 20?
20.
Because then you were 13.
Okay. You
No,
were
wait, wait,
13.
Yeah.
Is when Trump and just all the discourse really started to tamp up.
Ooh, 13.
So think about that. You've gone through high school, you've gone through college with all of it. And this is me not putting blame on anyone. I'm just saying this is what you've been observing. This is what you've just been digesting. This
The
is what you've
very
been understanding.
vitriolic political system.
100%. And then how it's us versus them, about how you've seen your parents. Maybe if you came from a politically divided family and you saw your parents go at it, or you saw your dad go at it with, your mom's, dad or whatever. You've just seen it very divided.
Mhm.
And so now you finally feel like, as you finally have come into your own and you're starting to understand the world. And so you've had TikTok and you've been able to you feel like you've been able to understand the world more intricately than maybe we did back when we were that age, because you have all these resources at your fingertips that breaks very complex issues down in an
Mhm.
entertaining way. If it's always true or not, I don't know, because it's TikTok and we
And that's
can't
the
verify.
problem. That's the
Exactly.
problem.
We don't know. But
Mhm.
I'm just trying to get into their headspace. So you have these kids that are like, fuck this. And so now you have these two 80 and late 70s guys battling it out to try to represent you. And then you have some states that are basically trying to say, if you're a woman, you don't have control over your body. If you are protesting, you can't protest, and you have to jump through all these hoops. And now we're going to take away the system that you have used to learn all these things that make you feel so enlightened.
Mhm.
And then if you are now just coming into understanding everything about Palestine and Israel and Hamas, and you're like, I feel like everybody, or like this world, our country is built on injustice.
Welcome to it.
It is just exploding.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so no wonder these kids are going fucking insane, because what have we taught them since the time they were in middle school?
We're just gonna fight with each other.
We haven't given them any example of, this is how you have a civil discourse.
Right.
This is how this is what America is built on. Is what's supposed to happen is these two legislative bodies are supposed to go back and forth, and it goes to the president. If the president doesn't like it, he says, I don't like it. Then it goes back down. They discuss it some more. And then they finally get to the best possible way to govern and to lead our country. But we haven't been able to do that.
Ooh, and it's so sad too, because over the last 10 years or so, politics has been more of a reality show than
Actual
governing.
politics. The only thing that they have been able to come together on is fucking TikTok.
Which really says something. I mean, if you think about it, and I get so mad at the people online that are like, they'll just come up with a new TikTok, or like, I don't even like TikTok. It's just cat videos. And like,
They don't have that algorithm.
You aren't seeing, and like, there's it's so much deeper. TikTok does go so much deeper because there is a different algorithm,
Right.
and it's not just controlled by the US of A. And by the way, it's not controlled by the CCP. That man that owns the stake in TikTok has not been accused of anything, is not a representative of the CCP. And he only owns like a 20% stake anyway. The other 4 stakeholders, 3 of them are Americans, and one of them is some million billionaire that lives in Finland or something. I don't know. I might be wrong on that. But so it's like, well, they want them to divest. Well, who divests?
Right.
So anyway, there's a lot more if you were to look into it. But yes, on TikTok, especially, because it's like, how and why did y'all get so together on this all of a sudden? And yes, we don't know all of the details. Like, yes, people were worried about information leaking to China, and I get all that. But we literally have proof that Russia meddled in Facebook, and like, they didn't do anything to Mark Zuckerberg. They were just like, hey, can you make it safer? And Mark's like, yeah. I'm so sorry about that.
Right. Well, and this is why I wish that, I think I've said this before, that obviously when it comes to national security, there are things that we'll never know.
Right.
And there are
we
things that we should not know.
We shouldn't know.
But I feel like if you are going to make this type of decision, there has to be a way for you all to explain it in a way that at least it won't ever quell it and everyone won't go, oh, okay, got it. That makes sense. You're always going to have people, because we're in a country of 300 plus million people. There's always going to be people that are going to be like, that's still a conspiracy and I don't believe it.
Absolutely.
But at least I feel like it would just give a little bit of like, okay, I understand. I see. I don't like it, but at least I get it. And I feel like as long as they stay quiet about it and just say, nope, sorry,
well,
they're going to have this.
the shadiest thing that they did, this is very much like the Kate Middleton thing,
Right.
where there was a good reason, but they weren't saying any part of it. And so then like shit went wild. And what happened is the government is not being very trustworthy because they tried to do it like the proper channels and the proper way, and they couldn't get through it. So what they did was they're like, we're just going to tuck it in this foreign spending bill.
Right.
Yep, we can pass it that way. And it was like a sneak attack. And so that doesn't, people already don't trust the government. Now they extra, especially if you're young, now you extra don't trust the government. So you did it shady.
I just do feel like we are coming to a head because there are so many different things that you can look at. And I am very nervous about what this fall looks like. I don't know what that means. I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that I am nervous for whatever comes down the pike, because we are reaching, like I said, I feel like we're reaching the end of what was set into motion in the late 60s, or I'm sorry, in the 70s into the 80s. That was set into motion, and you can just look at it. And this is why this podcast, I'm so fascinated, because it feels like that's what they're getting to, or like what they're trying to understand by going through all of these time periods and whatnot.
So they're learning as it goes too, or they have it all set up?
I mean, I think it's set up because it's not like a discussion podcast. It's like with clips and videos and stuff like that from prior interviews and stuff like that. Because hearing some of the stuff that as a person who actively is a boring ass person who watches a lot of documentaries and all the fucking CNN, like whenever they've done like the race to the White House, that's the shit I watch when I go to bed.
Yes,
I watch all that stuff
in it.
But some of the stuff that I've heard, I'm on the Reagan part of it right now, that like I've heard anecdotally, and I can never say that word
anecdotally.
Right. Thank you. About things that he's said, things that he has inferred. I'm now hearing it come from his mouth in speeches, and I am like gobsmacked. I was like, he said that? And people were like, yes, this is my person. Yeah. Now I understand a little bit more about why.
I don't know enough about Reagan. I just thought he was just universally beloved until recently, when I was like, oh, well, it does seem that things may have gone a bit awry.
Like, I knew from the gay world that he is not a beloved figure because it took forever for them to even acknowledge HIV. AIDS.
Yep.
That's true.
And so I've always...
Well, that's why we had that ridiculous, not ridiculous, but like horrific epidemic, because it was not
taken
seriously.
Yeah, it wasn't because it was a gay disease. It was gay cancer. So I've known that, and I knew how he coined the terms, like basically implying that like it was black women that were just sucking the teat of welfare, and it was just, you had the welfare mamas, and that's where all that stuff, especially in the 90s, where it'd be like, well, you just have all these black women just having babies to get on welfare and stuff like that. I knew those two things about him, but I also knew that he was considered the great communicator and the trickle-down economics. But some of the stuff I'm learning in this podcast, I'm like,
that's crazy.
And a lot of the things that he said, well, I'll just leave it at that. I would just say, if you're interested, it's called Landslide. Interesting podcast.
Maybe, I mean, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, but I'll write it down.
Fascinating.
I like to be educated, you know. So anyway, sorry, I feel like I've riled some people up with this podcast, but if I have to suffer through it, I wanted to share it, so you have to.
Knowledge is power,
right?
And you know what I also took away from the beginning of the conversation was, you know, really notice how your straight dude reacts to that question.
Right.
I think it says a lot.
Yeah,
it shows if they're socially aware, they're capable of understanding.
Right, and then, you know, if they're open to hearing more about it,
that part.
Like I understand it's hypothetical and it's pretend and it doesn't matter, but it will tell you, a lot, I think.
Well, and to me, I look at it like this: like during the Black Lives Matter, the George Floyd, our racial reckoning in our country. When I had white friends that would just be on Instagram and just be like, why are people so mad? And George Floyd, he was on drugs and all these things. And I'm like, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
You're not missing the point. When, yes, a lot of stuff that we talk about happened way in the past, but there is a through line to so many things. Like, we don't get to where we are without understanding what redlining means, without understanding how communities of color have been purposely had their wealth taken away to keep them down.
This
Like, you
happened
don't-
in Charlotte. We
Yes.
are talking about this in Charlotte literally right now.
Yes.
Because there was a community in the 70s. I don't remember
Where
which
I
neighborhood
live,
it was.
Brooklyn Village.
Brooklyn Village.
I lived on Brooklyn
Where they,
Village
like,
Avenue.
Raised the town, which was a very up and coming wealthy area of predominantly Black people, and they raised it to the ground like, we need this area for something else. And then they never did shit with it.
Look at most
It's crazy.
major cities. Look where that highway went through. It usually went through the Black neighborhoods. And if you're ever curious about some TV shows that touch on it, that it's not like a history documentary, but they will touch on it. And there was one that Brie Larson, I think, oh God, what was it just called? She was the chef. It was on Apple TV Plus.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of what it's called. It has Brie Larson in it, but
But
they
you
did
can find it. Just Google that.
But they did such a beautiful job of not even being like, hey, we're teaching you about redlining and how, a lot of places in the 60s and 70s raised through Black communities. That was just like a little part of it. And I was like, beautifully done, because I'm sure there were people that were like, oh, did this really happen?
Yeah. And listen, I know it's uncomfortable.
Right.
I know.
And
It's okay to be uncomfortable.
Right. And it doesn't mean that you are a racist person. I'm not saying that anyone, obviously, if you're listening to this show, I would hope that you're not racist. But just understanding that when people are screaming for help,
yeah,
and they're screaming to listen, there is a reason why.
Right. We were raised in this. It's the air that we were raised with. You can't really escape it. You just have to learn about it.
Kelvin, what's your social media people can follow you?
At Kelvin Live, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram.
Holly O'Connor.
Radio Holly on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Threads. And thanks to Zendemeyer, who put lessons in chemistry.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant show. Really, really good show. And you can find me at Miguel Fuller. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Be Real, Peloton, all the places. Bye.